This video is sponsored by Card Kingdom. If you click on the link in the description below, it'll take you to their store and they'll know I sent you there. Hello everyone, I'm Nita Hone, and it is Saturday, so that means it's time for another episode of the History of the Banned and Restricted list. In our last couple of videos, we looked at 1999, a year in which around 30 total cards were placed on the banned or restricted list for various formats. This was arguably the worst year Wizards had in terms of printing new busted cards too, because about half of those cards all came from that year's block, Urza's block. The problems created in 1999 impacted every single format, and drastic action was the only way to get things back under control. The good news is, for the most part, the bannings and restrictions of 1999 helped restore the health of the game for the year 2000. However, that does not mean that 2000 didn't have any problems at all, but when compared to 1999, it was a pretty quiet year. Instead of having to talk about 30 cards over two separate videos like we did in 1999, we can look at all of the year 2000 in a single video, and there are only 5 cards that we need to talk about. The first announcement of 2000 came in March, and it only banned cards in Extended. One of these was Mana Vault, a card we looked at last time that was an overpowered mana rock that allowed for 2 fast of starts. However, the other card added to Extended's ban list with this announcement was Dark Ritual. While we've talked about the Ritual before, it has only been peripherally. Up to this point, it hadn't been banned or restricted in any format. So Dark Ritual can give you 3 mana as early as turn 1, which sounds really good, but it comes at the cost of card disadvantage. For a long time, Wizards felt this design was a fair one. That's why it took 6 years after the creation of the banned and restricted list for it to be banned or restricted in any format. However, by 2000, a card like Dark Ritual was beginning to be looked at as too strong for Extended. Fast mana is always something Wizards bans aggressively, and Dark Ritual absolutely allowed for 2 fast of starts. Dark Ritual had seen a lot of play starting in 1995, but by 2000, black decks were just too good in Extended. They had access to Dark Ritual and Necropotence, as well as Demonic Consultation. Those are both cards we're going to talk about later on in this video as well. But having all of these powerful cards made it so that black was the deck to beat in the format. Other powerful ways to accelerate mana had been banned or restricted or rotated out of the format, so it seemed unfair black had access to something like Dark Ritual, so it got the axe in 2000 and would remain banned in the format for as long as it existed. After Storm emerged a few years later, it became even more obvious that the card should be banned. Dark Ritual sees a lot of play in Storm decks and Eternal formats right now. The next announcement came in June of 2000, and it focused exclusively on the Masks block constructed format. Remember, block constructed formats were those where only cards from 3 sets were legal. For Masks block, these sets were Mercadian Masks, Nemesis, and Prophecy. One of the big themes in these sets was Rebels versus Mercenaries. These were 2 creature types in white and black respectively, who had the ability to recruit other Rebels or Mercenaries to the battlefield. In the end, Rebels ended up way stronger than their mercenary enemies, and at the Masks Block Pro Tour in April, 6 of the top 8 decks were Rebel decks, and they had completely broken the format. And Lyn Civvy, Defiant Hero, was at the heart of the problem. As I mentioned, Rebels could recruit other Rebels to the battlefield, and this could really snowball and result in an insane card advantage, but Lyn Civvy was the biggest problem of them all. Other Rebels could only recruit those with mana cost less than their own, but Lyn Civvy could recruit any Rebel she wanted, and if you lost a Rebel who you wanted to recruit again, well, she could put it back in your deck and you could get it right back into play. Lyn Civvy had to be banned and Masked Block constructed to restore order and bring the Rebel decks back down to earth, and in the end, that's what Wizards had to do to fix what was an utterly broken format. Rishadan Port was also banned and Masked Block constructed with this announcement. The Port is a frustrating card to play against, as players could use it to tap down 1 of your mana every single turn, since you can use it during your opponent's upkeep. There was basically no reason not to run the Port in block, and games were often determined by who got the most or first Rishadan Port in play, since they were the one who could first mess with the opponent's mana the most. All 8 decks that top-8'd the Block Pro Tour ran a full 4 copies of the Port, indicating that it was simply too powerful for the format. It didn't help that it also made games a lot less fun to play too. The Port is powerful enough that it still sees play in Legacy, Death, and Taxes today. So, these 2 bannings fixed what was probably the worst block format, not only up until that time, but in the entire history of Magic. The last announcement of 2000 came in September, and it restricted 2 cards in Vintage and banned the same 2 cards in Legacy. Like Dark Ritual, both of these cards were also black, showcasing just how strong black decks were at this time. These 2 cards were Demonic Consultation and Necropotence. Demonic Consultation was a tutor-like effect that had somehow managed to avoid being banned along with the other cheap tutors back in 1999. While it had something of a downside in that it milled your deck, frequently it amounted to only costing a single black mana to put any card from your deck into your hand, at instant speed. That efficiency was too good, and it meant that black could actually still play overpowered combo decks while other colors couldn't. One example of this in Extended was the Donate combo deck, which sought to get Illusions of Grandeur into play and then donate it to your opponent. Consultation made it way too easy to assemble this combo. Like they did for other tutors, the minute Wizards saw this one enabling a combo deck in any format, they decided to ban and restrict it in Eternal formats, where it could potentially enable even more busted combos. It would later be banned in 2001 and Extended. It remains restricted in Vintage and banned in Legacy to this day. Like Demonic Consultation, Necropotence was banned in Legacy and restricted in Vintage with this announcement, and it would also be banned in Extended by early 2001. Necropotence, like Dark Ritual, is a card that we've talked about in the past several times, but it somehow managed to go unbanned and restricted for all this time, even though it first started doing busted things back in 1995. Necropotence was really the reason black decks were so insanely powerful in so many formats. It let you exchange life for drawing cards, and if you combine this with life gain effects, it wasn't all that hard to draw your entire library. Necropotence became a staple in black decks in every format it hadn't rotated out of, whether combo decks like Donate or mono-black aggro decks. In this case, I think it's really strange Wizards didn't pull the trigger on it years earlier because it had long warped entire formats. Like Demonic Consultation, Necropotence remains banned in Legacy and restricted in Vintage to this day. So, two different things happened with the banned and restricted lists of 2000. The first is that Wizards finally cracked down on overpowered black cards in Legacy, Extended, and Vintage, with things like Necropotence and Demonic Consultation gone forever. The second is that Wizards really messed up designing Masks block, but the banning of Lin Civi and Rishadan Port helped save that format. Next time we'll look at 2001, another relatively quiet year for bans and restrictions, even quieter than 2000. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like it and share it so that others can enjoy it too. If you want to make sure you catch future episodes of the History of the Banned and Restricted list, don't forget to subscribe, and if you want to catch up on earlier episodes of this series, you should see the playlist on your screen now. Thanks for watching.